Hi, it's Dr. Panny here, and I want to thank you for taking our health quiz. Based on the answers to your questions, it appears that blood sugar dysregulation is your primary roadblock that's holding you back from enjoying sustainable weight loss. Now, when it comes to blood sugar dysregulation, there's a couple of different directions that can go. Some people are experiencing tendencies towards what we call reactive hypoglycemia, where their blood sugar is dropping a bit too low. And then there's others who are experiencing tendencies towards what we call insulin resistance, prediabetes or diabetes. And that's when their blood sugar is going a little bit too high, or sometimes more than a little bit too high. Regardless of where you find yourself with regards to blood sugar dysregulation, it can create some challenges with regards to inflammatory undercurrents, as well as hormonal shifts that can be very damaging and challenging when it comes to expressing a healthy metabolism and getting your body into a sustainable weight loss pattern. So let's just explore those two possibilities for just a moment. The people who are experiencing either one of those extremes, where it's reactive hypoglycemia, the blood sugar drops too low, or insulin resistance, where it goes too high, in either case, many of those people are experiencing a challenge with regards to energy throughout the day, energy and vitality. So if you think of your energy as being rated from 0 to 10 throughout the day, many of those people are going to see basically numbers below that 8, 9, or 10. And that's because their energy production is oftentimes linked to their glucose. And if their glucose is off, then it's going to challenge them with regards to their ability to produce energy. So we've been brought up in an environment that promotes basically utilizing things like Gatorade or food bars or things of that nature to basically create quick energy boosts. And while that can be helpful in a short-term situation, oftentimes that leads to more problems down the road. So one of the things we want to understand is people who are experiencing reactive hypoglycemia tend to get shaky, lightheaded, and sometimes irritable if a meal is missed. And they struggle oftentimes with sleep disturbances, especially an inability to stay asleep. What we want to understand is people with reactive hypoglycemia or insulin resistance are going to be expressing challenges with energy production, with sleep cycle, with a host of other challenges. So if you find yourself in a position where you feel like your blood sugar is dropping too low, the natural tendency is to reach for a candy bar or to have some orange juice to try to basically bring that blood sugar up. And while that might be a temporary fix, it's certainly not the answer long term. What we want to do is really get those people back into a healthy, stable state of blood sugar utilization. And that's a process that we go through with each client. And it's critically important because that foundational step is what's going to allow you to continue to win and enjoy sustainable weight loss for the rest of your life. If people are experiencing tendencies towards insulin resistance, let me just explain in very simple terms what that means. The pancreas is the organ in our bodies that produces insulin. When we have glucose floating through our bloodstream, insulin is released, and the insulin is designed to bind to a red blood cell. What that means is, if you imagine that this hand is basically a receptor site on a red blood cell, when insulin binds on that receptor site, then all of a sudden the red blood cell has these elevator doors that open up. They're actually called glut receptors. We'll just call them elevator doors. And when they open up, they allow glucose to gain entry into that cell. And that's very important because then the glucose goes through a process called Krebs cycle that allows us to basically enjoy sustainable energy, the production of something called adenosine triphosphate or ATP. So keeping it really simple, insulin needs to bind to that receptor site in order for those elevator doors to open so glucose can come into the cell so you can produce cellular energy. And that cellular energy is critically important, not just for your energy throughout the day, but for every cellular function. Now, if that system is impaired in some way, if you're insulin resistant, that means that receptor site is closed, so insulin cannot get onto that receptor site. So those elevator doors do not open up, and if they don't open up, then oftentimes that leads to other challenges, such as basically decreased energy. And one of the major pitfalls with regards to blood sugar dysregulation is it also results in sleep challenges. So if you're struggling with an inability to basically stay asleep or to fall asleep, then we can relate that back to the blood sugar as well. And that's one of the most important things we can do is help people to re-enter that reparative, refreshing, renewing sleep cycle. And when they do that in tandem with the blood sugar stabilization, the doors for sustainable weight loss open up. One of the challenges with blood sugar dysregulation is it can create enzymatic shifts in our bodies. When those enzymes shifts, it can lead to other challenges. In women, an enzyme called 1720 lyase is actually upregulated. It's produced in greater quantity. That leads to an increase of testosterone production in women, which can oftentimes lead to problems with regards to imbalances in their hormones. That can even lead over time to hirsutism, which means the growth of facial hair. It can lead to challenges with regards to normal menses. It can lead to changes in regards to mood. So that's certainly not something that we want. It's also very inflammatory. If your testosterone ratio to your estrogen ratio in women is off, that can be very inflammatory. In men, there's an enzyme called aromatase, and that aromatase is upregulated in the case of insulin resistance. In English, what that means is you're going to basically take your testosterone and you're going to convert it to estrogen. That's not something that we want. What that does is it basically creates problems with regards to libido, erectile dysfunction, increased inflammation, prostate hypertrophy, and the list goes on and on. So many people who are experiencing those types of tendencies don't even understand what the root cause of that is. And for many, it's blood sugar dysregulation. So some people who are experiencing diabetes on the extreme end of insulin resistance are basically on things like metformin or insulin. And while those things can be helpful for a short time, oftentimes those people are still seeing changes, we'll say fluctuations in their blood sugar that are definitely not normal or healthy. And the same inflammatory issues happen for the men that happen for the women. So what we really want to do is understand that in every case of someone who's struggling with blood sugar dysregulation, there's going to be a cascade of inflammatory events that takes place. And that's going to be very disruptive for your metabolism. So your ability to sustain weight loss becomes severely compromised. So one of the foundational issues that we need to address for a number of our clients is basically bringing their blood sugar back into balance. And when we do that, we do it in such a way that's going to create a sustainable change that can create transformative impacts in regards to their quality of life and their expression of health. So we hope that this video has given you a few insights into what one of your primary roadblocks may be. We invite you to come in for a consultation so you can learn more about what other factors may be contributing. In the meantime, we wish you every blessing for both health and happiness.